being very efficient, it basically means, number one, the business case is impacted because you consume a lot of network resources. Number two, very important, the total capacity of the network is dragged down. And number three, as already said, the service that the end user gets is not great. Now, so far, that wasn't too much of an issue because, and definitely during the first years of 5G networks, it was not an issue because there was plenty of spectrum. Operators bought a ton of spectrum, and that was not really needed for mobility. So some operators call that the fallow capacity, the excess capacity they had in the network, and they consumed that for fixed wireless access. But as all this capacity is now consumed, something gonna need to happen in the network to improve the efficiency, because if that doesn't happen, the deployment will stall. So that's basically a very significant impact.
Okay, so clearly there's a benefit for having outdoor CPE. Why hasn't it rolled out faster? What's the holdback?
Yeah, well, one of the reasons of the success of 5G fixed wireless access was the agility. As an end user, day one, you order a service on a website. Day two, you get a box, you plug it in, and you're up and running. And that's brilliant. That's much better than you get with fiber or any other service. If you go outdoor, so far, the problem was that the agility was completely killed, because what happens, you order the service, you make an appointment for an install, a month later, they don't show up, or you don't show up, 2 months later, they do the install. So it completely kills the agility, it completely kills the scale at which you can deploy. Operators today are deploying millions of devices a year. If you do that with professional install, it's very hard, can be done, but it's extremely hard to do. And of course, there is the cost of the truck roll to do the install. Now, you could argue that you're going to save a lot of on your network by doing the outdoor, so the truck roll is kind of compensated in the business case, but the scalability, the agility is that.
So Neil, that takes me to you, as CEO of Solace. How does this through glass architecture actually change the model? I mean, Willem's spoken a little bit around it, but maybe you could expand upon that.
Well, the architecture that we have eliminates that trade-off between ease of install and performance in the network. And the temptation is always to, go with the lower OpEx option, self-install, put it inside, and that's what's traditionally been done.
Right. So let's explore that just a little bit further, Neil. When we talk about what this actually enables, maybe for both the carrier, what this actually does to the network capacity, and then the consumer, the ease of use and the actual outcome that they get. I mean, let's talk about some of the benefits to both sides of the equation here.
So when you plan, so it just really comes back to planning, I think. And so when you plan to deploy a network, you model it. And someone's figuring out, well, we put a tower up, we can cover this number of homes in a certain radius, and that's actually very predictable. Models are very, very sophisticated these days, except when it's inside the home, because you have no control over necessarily where people are going to put it. Man, they may move it after you install it, or they install it themselves even. So, and we don't know the wall thicknesses. They're very variable. We don't know if the windows are coated with low E coating, silver oxide and the like, or not. And so modeling is challenging. If they go with the standard models for prediction, they will be very optimistic about what their coverage is. And we've heard from operator after operator after operator that they're getting far less coverage actually with indoor CPE than they expect. So so it comes back to, like I said, planning.
What then needs to change, really, Adrian, when we think about this, like to consistently roll this out at scale? What needs to change within the existing structure?
I think this technology is only really matured now, and so it's available in front of us today. And I think it takes a little bit of boldness to attack that challenge. Don't just go for the kind of the low-hanging fruit of the inner circle around the cell tower and those cases that Neil was talking about where indoor gateways work fine. Let's look beyond that. Let's cover the outer ring and make it work 100% of the time, not 70% of the time, so that, you're not having dissatisfied customers that end up churning and going elsewhere and having return boxes and things like that. And of course, not only do you have, a more successful install, but the spectral efficiency is higher for the whole network, and the end throughput speeds to the end user is better. When you have a better signal propagation, you have a higher order modulation. It like literally translates to a much better service offering, even for the people that that are within the inner areas of the cell. So yeah, we got to have a bit of boldness to embrace this and achieve the same level of simplicity that you get out of an indoor gateway using an outdoor self-installed device.
Thank you. Neil, Willem, I'll ask you the same question if you want to add to the points that Adrian was making around what needs to change for broader deployment of this type of a solution.
Well, so I think the benefits are absolutely clear. And they are very, very significant. Just to give you a number, once did an analysis on a network in the US. If you move 15% of bad indoor CPE, if you move it outdoor, you create 60% more network capacity. So that's not 5% more, 10% more, it's 60% more. So the benefits are absolutely clear. It's now up to the operators to embrace the technology and make it viable to have a self-install outdoor CPE with this technology.
Neil, anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, the deployment models just need to be updated. If you want to be fast, update your deployment model to include this type of technology. It'll unlock, like we talked about earlier, I won't rehash it, but it'll unlock faster growth, much more reliable network design and implementation, and a scale far faster than any of the other things because simply it's predictable.
I would be remiss, Neil, if I didn't ask you how Deloitte is helping you through this process.
Well, there's a couple ways. So Deloitte is helping us with our financial modeling and doing some very good work there as part of our raise, getting some very good guidance. And Deloitte also has a very large established global network of operators. And that actually is something that we can leverage together to deliver the value proposition and offer the value proposition, because we believe that it's a win-win scenario for operators to adopt this.
Adrian, I'll save the last question for you. What is the one assumption operators should stop making about fixed wireless access so that it can be more broadly deployed? Or if you got more than one, that's fine too.
Just that outdoor deployments are too hard and don't scale, because that's wrong. And we've got working, units today that are fully 5G all-in-one through glass devices, and we can do POCs and trials and demos to show it off. So come and talk to us. We're very happy to show it off.
Yeah. Well, there's no compromise. You don't need to do that anymore. That's a legacy thing. It's not a technical problem anymore.
That's what I was.
Adrian, Neil, Willem, thank you for your time today. I know they're going to be sticking around afterwards, so if you have immediate questions, by all means, please stay. Thank you for your time this morning, this afternoon. I hope you have a fantastic show.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Anders. Thanks.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. Today I'm with Sue Preston. She's Vice President of Global Advisory Services at Hewlett-Packard.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And this is Alphonse Bouchot. I'm partner at Deloitte, and I'm leading engineering globally. We are going to touch today a topic that is very hot in the market, specific in the European Union, which is sovereignty. Why now? How it's being perceived? What are the challenges? And what are the solutions we can address toward them? So I would like to start basically framing what's sovereignty in the news. So as you've seen in the last 12 months, and it's not just for geopolitical issues, I think that Europe is realizing that we need to develop our digital industry to make sure that we are creating the productivity for the GDP we need as a union. There are many actors that are doing some steps forward. As an example, France France is pushing their technology in terms of collaboration tools from US providers to French providers hosted in a sovereign provider like Outscale. We're seeing that von der Leyen in the State of the Union pitch in late last year, she said that this was a priority in order to develop our autonomy in terms of platforms and solutions. And so I think that this topic is getting nowadays a lot of traction. If we look at what's happening over the last 15 years, all European service providers, they have reduced their margin and their market share by half, which is pretty shocking because in a market that is growing significantly, around 20% year over year, they are now less than 15%. That means that the full growth has been captured by the American providers as a whole. So definitely that was a wake-up call for the EU in terms of how to address the opportunity and the challenges that they were facing. So the way the thing we do the best at the EU is about regulation and compliance. So what was going to be the approach? Well, looking at a framework and being able to understand the implications and the critical criteria in order to deliver sovereign solutions. And the EU came up with this kind of framework, 8 categories. There are some of them that are not, you can see that the weight is very small. As an example, sustainability is 5%, but there are some others that are really relevant, specifically the ones that are counteracting the US Cloud Act. Who owns the assets, who operates the assets. So if you look at the operational, it's 15%, the technology stack is 15%, and the supply chain, so how you are assembling technology to deliver your goods, is 20%. So the EU is very focused on making sure that whatever you are delivering outside the EU is with EU technology, or at least made in Europe, right? And we are seeing a lot of movements in the market as Intel has announced very recently that they're ramping up production in Ireland, and they are moving, and they are hiring 1,500 people, which is almost doubling the world labor they had there. We are seeing a revamp interest for European providers like Stackit in Germany or OVH, Outscale, Scaleway, and others. And definitely, and I think that is precisely something that touched HP very closely, is looking at the private cloud as an asset and how you can stay sovereign just because you make the decisions in terms of the technology you are using and you are operating by yourself. Specifically, the most strict industry is defense. And we are seeing that not NATO, because NATO is US-led, and I think that from that angle, American providers are okay. But if you're looking at the German defense ministry or the French one, they are building with HPE combat clouds on-prem, operated by themselves. And that's important because sovereignty is not a digital step function, it's a continuum. And you need to put the attention in where you want to be, because this is a trade-off of innovation and cost for control. And if you're looking at the sample, the AWS region in Germany, the marginal cost of the service is 2 to 3 times the same one delivered from public clouds like the one that we have in Spain or in Ireland from AWS. So sovereignty comes with a price tag. And we need to understand that not always is needed, when is needed, and what are the options. And I would say that in that spectrum, we're going to have from public non-differentiated clouds to sovereign clouds to European sovereign clouds, and then to private clouds. And I would say that the message I would like to deliver is that private cloud moving forward is an asset, not a liability. Because the only way to make sure that you control the pace of evolution, the technology you are using, and you are not subject to third-party country legislation. So the EU is going to deliver their scoring early April. Basically, based on the categories we discussed, they have a formula. They are going to issue a certificate for the different providers. And the goal is to understand, based on data privacy and criticality of the service, where you need to put your workloads. If it's in a SEAL 4, which is the more strict one, or if a SEAL 2 is good enough.
Yeah.
So right now, nobody wants to invest ahead of the curve because this is going to be driven by regulation, as I said, but it's very expectant on what's going to happen in early April. So now, Sue, I would like to see your point of view in terms of what's happening in Europe around sovereignty. That is impacting not just the cloud services, but the AI as well.
Yes.
Everybody's looking at privacy, confidentiality. They want to do the inference on house and making sure that the information is not going across the firewalls to the public providers that host the model. So how HP is looking at this problem?
Yeah, no, so thanks, Alphonse. So as you know, I lead all of the advisory and professional services teams across HPE, and I'll take the clicker, save you having to do that. And focusing on what the outcomes are, and I agree with everything that Alphonse said on sovereignty, and then customers looking across AI, cloud, data, and how do they bring that all together?
It's the bottom one.
Oh, is there?
That one.
I'll get the way. Thank you.
Go.
So I first wanted to focus on what do we define as an AI factory. And for me, it's around where we're looking at the infrastructure and then the software and the people and the services that bring it all together. For the customers to industrialize on those workloads and that investment. And again, some of the things that we discussed on legislation and what's coming through across the globe, how do we align and focus on that? I think the other thing is as well, I mean, if we look at driving sovereign at scale, what we're focused on is giving customers the platform. So working with our customers, whether it's at the edge on inferencing, whether they're looking at their data layer. And we have the private cloud AI cloud platform, GreenLake, which also helps customers consume on those workloads when they need to and pay for what they use. And then interestingly, if I look across sectors, if we're looking at smart cities or we're looking at urban planning, and then really looking at patient outcomes as well. A good example was in a press release recently was with Telus in Canada, where we worked with them to deliver their sovereign AI factory at scale. Again, for the Canadian government, looking at the businesses and also looking at investors on where they're developing their LLMs and everything securely as well, and speed of the networks. Now, I know that Alphonse said with regards to the scoring for the EU framework on sustainability, but again, it's close to my heart on looking at how we're doing things ethically and sustainably. So looking at some of the innovation and the technology on direct liquid cooling, but also renewables as well. So Telus in Canada, in their case study, that's pulled on 99% of renewables. And also in the UK, I live in the UK, Carbon3 AI, again, another AI sovereign solution that's being delivered in renewable energy data centres as well. So we're looking at driving not only AI, but sovereignty as well, but how are we doing that sustainably? And then I run the services. So I'm looking at how are we helping our customers accelerate those outcomes at scale. So my teams are working across the whole landscape of the technology, the software, the services and the build, the governance, the compliance, looking at the frameworks that we need to align to, which is taken through right the way from day -1 through to day 2 on the run and the operate. And customers have choice because a lot of the customers are running their own environments as well, and in air-gapped situations as well with some of the governments and federal areas, then it gives those customers that security that they can deliver securely across the jurisdiction of what they need to deliver against. So for me, partnerships are absolutely critical. And I'm really proud of all the work that we're doing with Deloitte, with the private cloud AI focus as well, and on the advisory piece and advising the customers on how they can address their transformational journey. And I think they need to start now as well, Alphonse. There's no point in waiting and keeping up to speed with the maturity and looking at, we're looking at the hyperscalers and we're looking at how that can impact customers based on the services that they're looking to deploy within their areas. So it's a pleasure to join you today, Alphonse.
Well, thank you so much for the partnership, Sue. We really appreciate that at Deloitte. And I would like to highlight a couple of things.
Yes.
One is, this is not just an EU thing. Canada is looking at European regulation, and they are looking to mimic some of this. We are seeing some movements in Australia, in India, and in Japan. So the way that people is going to look at data and services is going to be different compared to how we were looking at 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes.
The other thing is that the sectors are not the same. So obviously defense, homeland security, central government, public sector as a whole is priority number one. But I would say highly regulated industries like pharma or retail banking, they're paying a lot of attention to this. And the third thing is we are seeing an evolution in terms of how you are handling innovation. People is looking at making it more personal.
Yes.
We are seeing from public providers to internal data centers to the laptop as well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting in all this conundrum, the different solutions, how they are used. So Deloitte and HP, we are partnering in terms of how to first framing the challenge and the opportunity, so basic on advice.
Yeah.
But right after we look in terms of implementation, the business in sovereignty in Europe has been framed by Gartner as 80 billion.
Yeah.
Geopatriation is the main thing. So how to move workloads that are sitting outside the Union to sit within the jurisdiction of the European Union. That's going to be the first thing. But we are going to see a lot of things about modernization as well, and different approaches when we are building agentics and different processes.
Yeah. And I think the technology has things grow. I mean, agentic AI, as you said as well, but everything comes back to the data for me. And I think it's how are people ensuring that they've got the right data and it's staying securely, because that's one of their biggest assets, and how can they protect that as well.
So that is what we wanted to present. If there is any questions, we are going to be happy to take them. Otherwise, you have our contacts and you can drop us an email anytime. Thank you.
So welcome, everybody. We are going to have a conversation now about the human element of agentic AI, building a workforce for humans and agents. And I am joined by my panelists here. On the end, Nishida Henry, Deloitte's Global Chief Commercial Officer for Amazon. Laura Schacht, a principal in our human capital practice at Deloitte. And Robin Harwani, head of the Telecom Industry Solutions at AWS. So welcome, everyone. So every year, Deloitte publishes a State of AI in the Enterprise report. And our latest report was released in January. Compared to last year, more companies, so 42% of companies, believe their strategy is highly prepared for AI adoption, but they feel less prepared in terms of infrastructure, data risk, and more importantly, talent. So today we're going to focus on that talent aspect of AI as we think about workforce readiness, building AI habits, and how organizations can move from 100% human workforce to agents and humans working together so that we can unlock productivity and avoid some of the pitfalls along the way. So Laura, I'm going to start with you. So Deloitte has created a new solution called Enterprise AI Navigator that we're showing in the booth. Can you tell us a bit about what you and the team have developed and the challenges that you're seeing as companies move to agentify their organization?
Yes, well, Enterprise AI Navigator is our end-to-end approach to scaling AI. So what we've heard over the last 6 to 12 months from organizations is that there's the challenge getting to this ROI expectation. We have seen in our Deloitte research that only 30% of pilots make it into production. And so as we looked at that, we thought, how could we support this? And some really digging into some of the big challenges. One being unclear value expectation. What does it mean financially? What does it mean for the workforce? Two, looking at what is the disruption to workflows, people and the work that's done today. And then three, how do we orchestrate this governance and this kind of ecosystem of agents in the future? And that's what Enterprise AI Navigator does, is help move through each of those processes end to end for an enterprise, ingesting what's specific to them and their industry to be able to better help make decisions that actually speed up that time, that give more trust and value into each of those steps, so that we know what is it that we should identify, how will the work change, and then how do we orchestrate those agents to get the best value of both the humans and agents in the workforce.
So Nishita, at Deloitte, we are actually undergoing a significant talent shift within our organization, and we rarely talk about ourselves on these panels. So let's break with tradition a little bit today and talk about how we're using the tools, that Laura's talked about, that we've developed to future-proof our firm as we prepare for agentic AI.
Absolutely. So this is an exciting topic because as an organization, we're over 180 years old, right? We've been in business a long time. We've been incredibly successful in helping our clients transform for a long time. And now we're seeing that disruption amongst us in the professional services community. So we really have to be ahead of that disruption and think to ourselves, how are we adapting our workforce? How do we adapt our tools? How do we adapt our strategy, right? And all of those things are going on right now. From a strategic perspective, we're looking at diversifying our business with solutions and assets, partnering with folks like AWS to build those solutions that are very industry specific. From a tools perspective, right, we've enabled our workforce with AI tools and products to help them be more efficient, to help them change the way they do work, and to help them kind of get freed up from the rote work to be doing more of the creative work. And from a talent perspective, we've really adapted our models from being job-based to being skills-based.
Right.
And so with those skills bases, we can provide people different trajectories for promotion and success. We can understand how those skills need to evolve and adopt as AI becomes our partner in the workforce. And we can give people more options in their career, which is the exciting part of this job.
Yeah. So Robin, an important part of companies unlocking the value of AI in their business is in training and skills development to better use the tools that are available. So one of the important use cases here that I'm sure a lot of companies here are dealing with is in and around software development. And I remember listening to a fireside chat with the AWS CEO, Mark Garman, 2 reInvents ago, talking about the importance of rethinking how work is done and rebuilding habits to incorporate AI tools into the regular development process. So can you talk a little bit about how AWS employees are developing the skills and building the muscle to use AI as an integral part of your business and service development? And importantly, how would these learnings apply to telecom CSPs globally?
Absolutely. Thank you, Christy, and thank you to the Deloitte team for having me here. I would say that artificial intelligence for Amazon has been a journey over the last 20 years. We have been deeply working and leveraging artificial intelligence across our lines of business. So if we look at Amazon.com, you are forecasting our entire recommendation engine based on the habits of our consumers is leveraging artificial intelligence. Fulfillment of our services, goods and services within the e-commerce business leverages artificial intelligence. Rufus that we have launched is a generative AI agent on top of Amazon.com is also leveraging generative AI. But when we look at AWS internally to manage the amount of capacity we have across our regions, we have been leveraging artificial intelligence extensively as well. One example that comes to mind is we have been working over the last couple of years, we were working on redefining the control plane of the cloud, components of the cloud, and we had a set of engineers working on it. We looked at Kiro, which is our IDE for
leveraging artificial intelligence through natural language interfaces. And we were able to deploy the control plane redefinition within a 74-day period, which was with humans defined to be a 2-year effort through our intelligence and our teams that were able to leverage the platforms. That gives you a perspective of work that was supposed to take a few hundred months of effort compressed into less than 100 months of effort by a few people coming together. And that is the kind of impact we see across the board in our business, across the lines of businesses. What that truly means to telecommunications operators is an opportunity. Within the line of businesses, they are looking to reduce the cost, rationalize the technical debt they have in the organization, and modernize the legacy application space. They can do that very, very quickly using services like AWS Transform that we have launched, with the capabilities that we have with Kiro and other pieces that we have been launching over the last year. And I think the other area that becomes unique is launching new capabilities to serve and offer new customer experiences. That's something that can be done very effectively now, leveraging these toolkits.
Yeah, I love these stories because it's about transforming ourselves and helping our collective clients transform themselves as well. So Laura, coming back to you, there's a lot of discussion in the world of agentic about jobs and tasks. Can you talk about how you're thinking about unlocking productivity and innovation through redesigning workflows in a world where humans and agents are actually working together?
Right. I think the conversation has so much focus around job displacement, and what really the conversation we haven't heard is around that redesign, the redesign of work. I think also, Nishida, you talked about skills. It's more nuanced than just the job.
Right.
And so the redesign of work, we asked our organizations about this in Deloitte's State of AI report in 2026, and we heard organizations fell in roughly 3 camps. One camp had fully redesigned their business with AI, new business models, and were unlocking a ton of innovation. A second third had just used AI kind of in a surface way, and the last third was somewhere in the middle. And so really that redesigning work, not just applying what's technologically possible, but thinking about the tasks, breaking down the tasks, what is done by human and has best oversight, and what is best done by agents, but then also not just thinking about, not stopping there, but not just automating the task, but redesigning the sequence.
Right.
And we've seen as organizations who are then redesigning the work or their business model are seeing returns, right? Beyond these numbers around jobs, they're seeing things like improved customer retention or customer service scores, speeded time to market, higher innovation. So really getting the benefit, a lot of the growth and efficiency by kind of just reframing that lens to be really focusing on that workflow of what is the work and who's going to be doing the work.
Right. So, Robin, back to you. So at reInvent in December, AWS launched even more sophisticated agents, such as AWS Frontier Agents, your new class of autonomous, massively scalable AI agents that are designed to operate independently for extended periods without human intervention. So how are you seeing your clients begin to implement these new powerful agents into their business? And how are these, to kind of take Laura's point, how are these agents solving business problem in new ways? And, as you think about Telco, how is these solutions helping Telco customers globally?
Absolutely. I think that's a great question. Let me start by saying that Frontier Agents that we launched for security and DevOps at reInvent are just the beginning, right? If you think about Frontier Agents these are agents that can work indigenously for a long period of times without requiring any human intervention. But we think about agents as applied to the industry across 4 lines of businesses, all 4 lines of businesses that we serve as our customers. The CTO organization, most CTO organizations that we are working with are looking for us to recommend how autonomous networks can be built,
right?
Leveraging the agentic AI capabilities. Here, the amount of impact the agents can have is profound because there is multiple vendors, multiple technologies, fixed and mobility lines of businesses across multiple generations that require a lot of effort to be made to reach the level of autonomy. And that will only happen where both at the micro level, at network level, as well as the service level, these capabilities are brought to life. Within the CIO organizations, the experiences within billing, within charging, they are looking to transform that area, modernize their applications, and offer new types of services. Here we are working on not just generative AI, but generative UIs being developed on demand to create new offer experiences based on usage and personalization available. Then we'll come to the Chief Procurement Officer organization, where they're trying to redefine the consumer and business offers, trying to reduce the friction they can provide, they can reduce for business and consumer offerings that telcos offer. And that's, again, an area we're working closely with them, along with the Deloitte team as well. And the fourth area is driving growth for operators, right? With managed cloud capabilities, as well as managed offerings that can go out to the customers that we are working with. So these are two examples where we are leveraging agentic platforms to deliver business outcomes.
So Nishida, back to you to bring us home. You meet with a lot of clients in your role as Deloitte's Chief Commercial Officer for the Amazon and AWS relationship. What are some of the issues you see as companies move from a human workforce to a workforce that combines human and machines?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Everyone really thought this would move a lot faster than it has, right? We've seen the experimentation. We are starting to see more workloads in production, but it's slower than anticipated. And a lot of that is because it's really hard to figure out how the humans and AI are going to work together, right? So in the study that you referenced in the beginning, we found that 93% of funding is actually spent on tech and only 7% on the human workforce, right? And so we're not focused enough on how we are retraining folks, how we're helping them adapt, how we're helping them use the tools to be more efficient, how we're redesigning processes. In Robin's example of the billing systems, right? It's an incredibly complex thing in the telco market. And there's lots of humans that are focused on helping to manage that complexity.
Yeah.
Well, when AI can help you manage that complexity, how do you figure out how do the humans interact with that AI? What do they do differently? And what can you spend that human talent for and put them on that's going to be more impactful for your organization? Creating new services, right? Creating new customer experiences. But that takes time. It takes the right type of person from a skill set to be retrained, and it takes the right leadership to help folks understand it. Because the worst thing that's going to happen is that you're going to have resistance in your org.
Yeah.
Right? If you're not prepping the teams, the leaders, the management, there's going to be a resistance to change. And that's what's going to take a long time for then organizations to realize the ultimate value. And that's what we need to unlock and focus on.
Well, thank you very much. We've come to the end, and we could have talked about this for hours, but we've come to the end of our time. Appreciate all of the perspectives, and hopefully it's given everyone some things to think about as you're thinking about your own AI journey. So thank you, Nishida, Laura, Robin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the session. This session is about Telco to techco, the path for the sustainable growth. My name is Yosuke Rie. I'm the Global TMT Sustainability Leader. And together with...
Hello, my name is Takayuki Ochi from Deloitte Japan. I'm belonging to the Monitor Deloitte and reading the data center practice and emerging technology. Yeah. And I'm Jazz George, Deloitte's Global AI Market Scaling Leader. Delighted to be here.
Thank you. And let's start with the reality we all know. The last 4 decades, actually traffic growth has been relentless, but value capture has not kept well. And many telecom operators are running fast just to, stay in the same place. Now AI is changing the equation. We are seeing the step change in infrastructure demand. But this infrastructure expansion is facing the hard constraint, which is power. And it's not just the cost, but it's about grid readiness and the sustainability. And this is why the transformation journey of telco to techco is essential. Is the future simple in the connectivity layer, or it's about moving up the stack to shape how compute runs and how data moves? So today is about sustainable growth. So sustaining the margins and the investment capacity in the AI-driven world. So Ochi-san, let's start with you. We know for years, operators have seen the traffic growth exponentially without proportional increase in the value capture.
Yeah.
With AI now driving a new infrastructure cycle, do you see a real opportunity to telco to reposition themselves to move higher up the value stack, or actually that we are seeing the risk of repeating the same pattern?
Thank you. So I think this question is debated in the telecom operators from generation to generation. I think in the infrastructure layer, I think the telecom operator is very heavily invested in the AI data center to capture the growth opportunity. But I think the key problem is more on the platform and ecosystem strategy, because telecom operators is trying to capture more service and application layer, but has not succeeded well so far. And now our service and application layer business model is starting to change by the rise of the agentic AI service. So recently, everyone is talking about the SaaS companies that thinks SaaS is dead. So operators need to think about how to transform the business model, keeping the sustainable revenue. So that is a question. So to realize that, I think the ecosystem strategy is very important. So more deep collaboration with other company is important. For example, in the banking in Japan, telecom operators more heavily invest in the banking sector, collaborating with those Japanese big banks, including M&A. So those type of the big changes is needed to realize the sustainable growth. That's my comment.
Thank you, Ochi-san, a great insight. So let me now move to Jess. Jess, AI is accelerating build out large-scale data centers while also pushing inference to the edge. At the same time, energy ability and efficiency is becoming real constraints. So from your seeing globally, for your global point of views, how might this shift redefine where telco can create differentiated value across the compute connectivity energy landscape?
Indeed. So from our view globally, what we're seeing is that for telcos in particular, differentiation is not going to happen through ownership at large scale. It's going to happen through orchestration of the different pieces involved, all the way from the computation side to the network connectivity side, and then also how you use power in the most, I'll say, effective and efficient manner. Now, telcos are in a unique position that when they are serving AI workloads, they are able to detect different things which, let's say, the hyperscalers, for example, would not be able to. To be specific, telcos are in a position to be able to identify and classify AI workloads that are latency sensitive, that are compute dense, that have privacy implications, and based on that, also having insight in terms of understanding the different systems involved around, let's say, what the power consumption looks like, be able to make a thoughtful choice of where should this workload sit. Should it be within edge data centers? Should it stay on the device? Should it be in the telco cloud? Or it should be pushed to the hyperscaler? So being in this position to orchestrate an outcome, at the end of the day, making sure that the clients or the customers' performance and SLA expectations are met, is how telcos can differentiate. Now, to add to this, the other areas where the telcos have an opportunity is to identify the types of solutions they want to get into as they go up the stack. Do you go horizontal by focusing on sovereign needs, security needs, resilience needs for a nation? Or do you go vertical by focusing on sector-specific problems that telcos can solve for by making partnerships with players in the ecosystem that can give them an advantage? So this is also an area of differentiation that telcos can think about, but it is very important to be thoughtful and choose the areas you're going to play in.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And looking ahead to 5 years, this is a question for both of you guys. And what do you think will distinguish operators that successfully evolved into techco? And particularly in a world where AI scale and the capital intensity and the sustainability pressure are all increased at the same time. So maybe start from Watson.
Yeah. So as he mentioned, I think the portfolio strategy between the infrastructure and the service strategy is very important. And when we talk about the infrastructure layer, I think the change is happening because traditionally telcos cannot gain the additional revenue based on the increase of the traffic. But recently, operators trying to build new business model, for example, GPU as a service. So by building those type of business model, operator has opportunity to capture revenue based on the usage of the AI, so means the traffic. So those type of the infrastructure strategy is, I think, the key to think about the 5 years. Yeah.
Thank you.
And what I'll add to that and say is the telcos that will differentiate themselves are first going to make sure that they look inward to make sure that from an operations perspective, they are resilient. And they've looked at their OpEx and optimized it to be able to make their balance sheet stronger, make their cash flows more efficient. And then with that, you get flexibility on the financial side to be able to invest with confidence and get into these new spaces that we're talking about through horizontal or vertical solutions as such. And then be able to figure out how you scale appropriately as the market evolves. Because one thing to keep in mind is there is uncertainty out there right now in terms of how is this going to grow? How will this space be regulated? So that's why the no regret play right now is to make sure that you optimize your OpEx, get cash flow freed up, strengthen your balance sheet, and then that gives you flexibility to be able to go into different spaces. And then the only other thing I'll add to that is when you take an approach like this, you can also come up with this strategy of innovating inside out, in that there are solutions or solution patterns that you can build for your own internal applications that you can take to your customers and then use that as a way to monetize and continue to fuel your growth in a sustainable manner.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ochi-san and Jas, for your insight. So to wrap up, my takeaway today is about the sustainability is no longer, it's just side project, but it's actually competitive advantage. But also, I believe this partnership and ecosystem with different industry players or different types of players in a different stack levels is very important for telco companies to move into techco. And in this AI cycle, success is not just about traffic, but I believe it's about scaling intelligently with the energy discipline and a smart partnership, like what you exactly said. So when telco become techco, they own the intersection of data and energy.
Yeah.
And I think that's how we drive the growth for the next decade. And thank you very much for attending this session. And I hope you enjoyed it. And please enjoy the rest of the day and the rest of the week of the MWC. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, Barcelona. Wonderful to be back here. I'm Helena Lisachuk. I am with Deloitte. I look after IoT practice and what we call Know Your Cargo. And this is what we will be deep diving today. We will be discussing how intelligent fleet tracking is bringing visibility into vital components of supply chain. together with me, I have Rob Dixon, who is our architect specialized on connected supply chains. And together with me, Rob is working closely with Hapag-Lloyd, who is unfortunately not here because of some personal circumstances, but Rob will be the proxy of Karsten. And I have Max. Max is from Here Technologies. I don't know if everybody knows what Here does. They've been in business for about 40 years, and they are the number one location intelligence provider. So, you know, L3, L4 autonomous driving, this is like piece of cake for them. And Max is going to be talking to us why a company like Here stepped into supply chains. All right? Did I get your introductions right?
Thank you very much, Helena. All right. Nothing to add.
Wonderful. All right. So let's maybe start with the first question, Rob, as Karsten's proxy.
Yeah.
Could you please explain what is really the rationale for Hapag-Lloyd to become the first mover and invest into making all of the dry container fleet, almost 2 million containers, digital? What was their thinking behind it? What is the current experience? And yeah, why did they do that?
Yeah, so I think I think we need to rewind a bit, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. During the cash-rich times of COVID, the shipping lines, Hapag-Lloyd being one of them, all had money to invest, basically. And I think they saw an opportunity to close the blind spots in the supply chain. I think especially in places like the inland transportation portions of the supply chain, so the import and export legs. And I think between that and having experience with refrigerated containers and using telematics in those containers, they saw the opportunity to use this data to improve things like the estimated time of arrivals that they provide to their customers, to better manage exceptions, those types of things. And I'll get into that a bit more later. But, you know, in general, using data to drive new opportunities, either in their operations, the movement of the equipment, the containers, or for their customers to improve their experience and the ability to adhere to their schedules.
So thank you. Since being a first mover is never so easy, could you share a little bit kind of what was the vision and what is the reality? Are there any gaps? Are there key learnings?
Sure.
Anything?
Well, I think Max will talk a little bit about this from the Here perspective in a little bit, but I think coming up with this unified data model, because it's not just about the telematics from the container, that gives you a location, but you have to add context to that data. So how do we have a robust setup for geofencing? How do we provide context around real-time conditions, in terms of barges or rails or road transport, in terms of an ETA calculation, an estimated time of arrival calculation. Equally, how do we integrate all that data from our legacy systems? So things like our transport plan, which is how we communicate to customers when their goods are going to get to the destination, but also the intermediate nodes on that journey. And so I think that is all concurrent with large transformations at Hapag-Lloyd. So they're doing a large migration of their freight information system to the cloud. And I think all of these kind of combine into a place where I think you also see that I think we have a lot of good ideas about use cases, but at the foundational level, it's important to understand that the data that goes into these digital products needs to be of a certain robustness and quality. And it shouldn't stop you from getting started, but it is something to go in open-eyed and clear-eyed.
Yeah, and I think it pays off to be the first mover for sure, but it's really about value creation, right? And visibility is becoming a strategic imperative, especially nowadays with kind of resilience and instability, visibility, predictability, absolutely fundamental enablement, I think, in supply chain and giving comfort to the customers, right? But there is more value, right? Can you walk us through kind of the journey? I mean, of course, there is commercial value, operational regulatory. Do you want to walk a little bit through the horizon thinking, and then we'll switch to
Max?
Yes.
Yeah, I get all the questions at the beginning, right? No, so I think we look at the value story in terms of 3 different horizons within the engagement. And I think to start off with, the first horizon is a bit more reactive. It's saying there's an event that's occurred. We're going to notify you about that deviation. So maybe you're not going to make the cutoff at the terminal. Maybe you're delayed on your time of arrival. But we're going to at least give you a better notification about that in a more timely fashion than previous, because I think before container telematics, these events can be delayed sometimes 24 to 72 hours. And when you're planning your supply chain, so when you're planning your warehousing or you're planning your manufacturing on the basis of a container leaving the terminal at the port of discharge, that's quite material. The next horizon is being more proactive. So it's saying, okay, this event has occurred, but now what am I going to do about it? What can I do about it? Some cases maybe you do nothing, but there are a lot of cases where maybe you can also get on a different booking, a different service. Maybe you can switch modalities on the inland leg of the journey from rail to truck to try and get there on time. Maybe the cargo is so important that you need to put it on air freight, but at least you have the information to make those decisions as a shipper. And then the last is autonomous. And I think that's where I think we see agentic AI and these types of automation concepts come into play. I think Max will talk more on that as well. But I think in that regard, it's rather than having a human in the loop, although it will be there at the beginning, how can I actually rebook you because I know your preferences and I know your schedule well enough, and you as a customer to be able to recover on schedule or replan autonomously.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, great ideas, great vision, horizon thinking needs to be enabled by tech, right? So, Max, to you, what kind of methods, tools, platforms are you bringing from, autonomous driving enablement from all of these OEMs, connected cars that have here technology behind it? What exactly are you bringing into supply chain?
Yes, so thank you very much. So I will explain maybe from the horizon about 3 years ago. Hapag-Lloyd reached out to us and said, hey, we equipped 2 million containers with IoT trackers. That was a massive investment. And you as HERE Technologies, you are the best in location intelligence. Now we separate the IoT trackers to the location intelligence. So we are receiving, from HERE perspective, now the telematic data, each 15-minute pings from 2 million containers. And I'm talking about 10 million transports minimum from Hapag-Lloyd, what we are calculating the ETA. What is an ETA? So we are from the automotive industry. When you are driving, you have got your navigation system. You're driving from Hamburg to Munich, and you have a calculation of the ETA, which is pretty precise. But a car is also a device which is providing each seconds a ping, where we are calculating our ETA, and we are invented that in the past. So we are pretty stable and knowing what we are talking about. So then Hapag-Lloyd reached out to us and said, hey, we have got each 15 minutes ping of 2 million containers, and we are not only having these containers on a ship, we're having them as well on a truck, on a rail, on a barge. And can you provide us end-to-end ETA for the inland? And we say, oh, that's new, because we are talking about different modes, truck, rail, and barges. And when you can consider that maybe one transport as an example, you have a transport plan where you are planning to have this container from the depot from Hamburg, which is driving with a truck to Osnabrück, drilling to the rail, and the rail is driving then to Antwerpen, to the port. And this is a plan, but reality looks totally different. So the truck, we are estimating then the time of arrival to the dwell station for the rail,
And then we are considering also by the geofence capabilities that we have, and each 15-minute pings that we have got an average speed that we can calculate the all end-to-end transport journey with ETAs. So we did that, and let me say a little bit that we are promising to Hapag-Lloyd a really stable ETA, what we consider from the automotive industry that we are good with 99% of the ETAs. So we said, okay, let's humble and let's talk about a quality of 70% or such kind of that range, what we would like to promise to Hapag-Lloyd. At the end, what we received from the data, we never ever reached that in a double-digit area at the beginning. And that indicates that the foundation of data was not set as clean as we thought. So what we provide then to Hapag-Lloyd is say, hey, you should look into your transport plans. You should look into your IoT devices. They are also not pinging each 15 minutes. So that's they are sleeping sometimes. They're not waking up after they are coming up. So that was a mess. And now we reached that level of the best ETA in the market at the moment. What Hapag-Lloyd is providing to their end customers, a solid, good ETA. And that's the first step. Should I explain as well?
Yes, please. Absolutely.
Okay.
Continue.
So ETA is a foundation. So when we are measuring the ETA, the estimated time arrival, we can indicate also how stable the foundation is of the data, also of the process data. The next step is to use this ETA together with geofences to get reliable notifications out of it. So when, as an example, again, the journey with a container from Hamburg to Osnabrück, we are measuring always plan versus actional. And we identify in real time that we have a delay. So what should we do? And then we have a delay, and this you should rely on. And this is a notification the end customer of Hapag-Lloyd should receive. But this is only a notification. And this is really tricky to do that for 10 million containers, transports. And you can consider that when there's a delay, it comes to a risk of an overnight delay of the container that it will not be in the right time at the port. That costs normally around about 3,000 euros or for one transport. But you can consider by 10 million containers, only when you are talking about, let me say, 10% of all the transports have normally an overnight delay. Then we're talking about, 3 billion, correct me if I do the math right, but a little bit, so billion.
Let me pull out my calculator.
Yeah, absolutely. As a calculator. It's massive, right? So I don't throw out the numbers, but it's so massive only for one use case to receive a notification where you can rely on that you can act on proactively, not only reactive. So you can act on that and say, okay, I need to check out what can I do to fulfill now or maybe to reach the port in a certain time. And maybe the decision might be that you're not switching from truck to rail. Why should you not reach out to the carrier and say, hey, go forward, don't dwell on the rail, directly to the port of Antwerpen, and you have no overnight delay. But this should be then made by a decision, and the decision is then considered, or maybe is utilizing all the relevant informations, and maybe also supported by agentic AI, where agentic AI is considering the whole environment, everything around what's going on in the transport, what's going on in the environment of the container, and then he's proposing proactive suggestions where the human in the loop went into and make the right decisions. Even much more efficient as what we are having today in the transport and logistic world. So this is maybe 3 words. So fix the foundation first, look into your data, then measure it and get real ETAs and reliable notifications out of it, and then put agentic AI on top of it, and then you will, let me say, do a lot of efficient maybe cost savings and risk avoids there. That's the whole journey.
Thank you. It's a very, very bold ambition. I think we are at the beginning of the layered cake, right?
Yes.
But we'll get there at the end, right?
And Helena, it's only 5%. Hapag-Lloyd is really small against MSC, Maersk, all the transport around the world. It's really, in my point of view, the most interesting playing field with Deloitte together to conquer that and to clean up this foundation and then set up on top of it agentic AI, and then we will have fun.
Oh, well, we always do, yes.
Yes.
But I'm going to switch gears for a little bit,
All right.
because ambition is fantastic, right? Nobody can do it alone, right? So you need to have a very good ecosystem of parties that you trust, that makes it a reality, right? So we've been about this journey, for 3 years?
Yep.
Do you want to kind of talk a little bit who are our current ecosystem partners and who will be the other ones stepping in?
Sure. Yeah, maybe one note before I do. I think Max mentioned the improvement. I think what we do see is that the live ETA is what we call it, actually provides about a 77% improvement on the historic booking confirmations or ETAs that Hapag-Lloyd has traditionally given its customers. So even though we are working through data quality challenges,
but
it's already a substantial improvement on sort of the status quo.
And 77% is a big number, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so other shipment providers, maybe to give you a hint, only providing on milestone data is 60%. So we are also, let me say that we are good with the ETA, and we're proud of it.
But then coming back to the ecosystem, I think you'll have heard about the containers themselves, and obviously those require in our scenario devices, and that's parties like Nexiot and Orbcom who make these devices that you affix to the outside of a dry container. You want to trust the data, so that's both security, but then the sort of provenance of the data and the chain of custody, and that is parties like our partner PairPoint. You have here technologies with their location intelligence, but also the additional intelligence through building things like live ETA algorithms and the notification engines that we're talking about. And then lastly, all this needs to run somewhere, I guess. There needs to be a compute environment, and that's where a party like AWS comes into the picture from both Hapag-Lloyd's perspective, Here's perspective, Nexiot's perspective. So AWS seems to be a common factor.
Absolutely. But I do want to add a little bit, right? Because we talked about tech ecosystem, but we are also actively expanding with major players in the industry, like, for example, DCSA, the ports, the authorities. You want to mention one or two words about DCSA?
I can maybe DCSA is a Digital Container Shipping Association. So it is founded by the major container carriers, and all of the biggest container carriers are members. But additionally to the members, we have got talking about as DCSA, we are this Partner Plus. And there are the main maybe system integrators, also technology providers, and so on. And DCSA in core of the function and the rule in that game and the ecosystem game is to set the standards. So we're talking here really about new standards in supply chain, and therefore DCSA is working on that. And it's really true what you're saying. It's really, so it's a big ecosystem play. And we are also now since 1 month member of the DCSA. So it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. All right. Well, we are about to wrap up. Thank you for sharing all the insights. I have 2 final questions for each one of you. I think it would be great if one line vision 5 years from now. We'll start with you, Rob. And also, how are you going to contribute to that vision?
Yeah, not to steal your thunder, but we didn't align on this before. So I guess I would use the term that we've used in the past: self-healing supply chains. So I think that's the autonomous the autonomous time horizon that I was talking about at the beginning. How will we contribute? I think we as Deloitte, the way we are contributing today and the way we can contribute is I think is kind of a third party, maybe between some of the technology providers and the shipping lines and the shippers themselves and the DCSA, basically the spider in the web of that ecosystem. Obviously, we have large breadth and depth of services that we can bring to bear. But I think it's really actually how can we help the ecosystem and the industry as a whole move forward, and that can be any one of our catalog of services.
Thank you.
Yes, so my vision might be that when we are fixing really the foundation of data, when we have got reliable notifications and ETA predictions, on top we will see in 5 years the agentic AI will rewheel the whole supply chain and will automate so much things that, maybe I cannot imagine.
Wow, that's wild. Normally you have a very, very good imagination, Max. But thank you. Now, what would you like the audience to take as a key message of your story and your belief in this vision?
Yeah, so let me say from here, technology perspective, location data is trust and truth. This is maybe the core. And you need to trust in something as a maybe resonance point of truth and trust in your fixed foundation. If you fix that and you measured your foundation, you can build everything on top of it. Notifications, operational efficiency, and so on. And when you fix this sandwich first, then go ahead with agentic AI and not vice versa. Because, you need to have reliable data. That's it.
Thank you.
I'll do it at a personal level. So there's a massive industry and complex ecosystem behind it, and it's really the backbone of capitalism, I would say. And I think resilience is the theme that we hear right now.
Yeah, thank you. And I think to just summarize, first of all, thank you so much, and thank you for the audience. But to summarize everything, supply chains are not about optimization. It's about really being resilient and trusted. Yes?
Agree.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sure.
Area, and I'm working together with Hugo in this amazing project, this exciting project in Saudi Arabia.
My name is Hugo. I'm a partner in the cybersecurity business focused on sports, entertainment, and major events. So, what is Giga? Giga is one of the flagship Giga projects that Saudi Arabia are creating. It's part of the Saudi Vision 2030 to change and transform the whole country. It's part of a strategic project and is a massive city still under construction. It's like 3 times the size of Barcelona. And well, they have more than 400 assets. The first asset is launched recently. That is the Six Flags theme park. It will also host 12 different theme parks. Also a Formula One racetrack,
Dragon Ball
Park, and also a huge residential area. But I think before moving forward, let's see a video. It's really impressive what they are creating in the middle of the desert. And the work of Deloitte, we are driving the Giga's observability end-to-end journey. And Rodrigo, could you please give us more details about this?
Yes, as you can see, the city is right under construction. They are creating the whole concept. They are building the things. Hugo was mentioning some of the assets that they are hosting. They are willing to bring 40 million of people yearly in the country to see this or to stay in this entertainment hub. They are building 500,000 houses. So the challenge here is how you can control technology and take advantage of it while you are scaling up in this kind of construction. So what we are doing there for them is creating the concept of observability as a pillar, as something fundamental that will be across the whole construction and the whole technology that they are delivering, because they are thinking on the city in a smart way. They are building things that are sensorized, lots of application, lot of technology that needs to be controlled. So what we are doing for them is we are building the intelligent command center. What we think it is something that allows going from technical observability to business observability to control how the user is impacted by any disruption. So what we are creating is a unified control center that puts together application observability, infrastructure observability, IoT, OT, and also security, both cybersecurity and physical security. This is a central piece where all the telemetry is going to and is correlated. And also we are establishing a center of excellence of observability to control and take advantage of this observability, as I was saying, as a pillar. So it means that we are creating the fundamentals. So when they are scaling, this observability foundation is already in place, and all the assets that they are bringing into the platform are observable. We are also enabling them a crisis control center, because it's not only about managing disruption. Sometimes they will need to manage crisis at a city level, and this is something that they need to have a plan for.
We are very proud that in less than 6 months, we were able to accomplish the formal launch of the Intelligent Command Center that officially goes live past the last September 15. Let's see a video of the official launch. This is more than a monitoring center. We are enabling Giga with such a set of tools that will enable them, first of all, to have infrastructure monitoring, also a detailed digital twin that Rodrigo is going to show us right now, and also business observability, where you can see the journey of the client since they register in the website, in the applications, till they buy some tickets.
One important thing here is that we build not only the digital thing, but also the physical space, and this is something they are very proud of. They have showcased this space for all the region, and they are taking advantage of this to convert it into value of the brand. Okay. One of the things that you saw in the images was a digital twin. What we are doing there is we are taking all this telemetry coming from the observability and put them into a model that allow us to be predictive. One of the pillars that the client want to tackle with this project was not only react to the incidents, but be predictive, act before it happens. So what we are doing for them is, if you see the journey of an incident where we identify the incident, we move into the detection, the response, and the recovery, we are acting into the prevention part. The ICC takes advantage of all the information that we have to study what happened in the past, to automate responses in the future, even before it happens. But what we are doing with the digital twin is move into what-if scenarios. What will happen if something happens? And this is what this digital twin allows us to do.
We are using the preventive approach, not only for infrastructure, but also for networking, cybersecurity, and also for everything related to OT and IoT devices.
Business in a nutshell. What we are doing is we build, as you might see in the news, in the end of the year, they have launched the Six Flags Park with the Falcon ride, which is the fastest, longest, and largest in the world. But they have a roadmap. In March, Aquarabia will be live, and there will be other assets coming from now until 2040. What we design is something scalable, where we can onboard new digital twins based on each them park. We have created a model, a digital model, a graphical representation, where you can see all the telemetry coming from the systems, identifying where are the issues that are happening. So we are enabling operational teams to go and fix the thing. In a theme park like this, it's very important not only to know that we have a problem in an application, but where is the server that is hosting this application, in which room, in which part of the park, so you can mobilize and act on the physical asset rapidly. So what we did is a graphical model, a graphical representation, where we put the layer of the information that we are getting from the system. So you as an operator, as the COO, you can see how is the health of your system, where are the impacts, and get alerts of what is happening. But the beauty of this is the model that is sit behind. If you can see this graph here, this represents every single device of the theme park that has been built, and is related, has a relationship with all the devices, with all the infrastructure that is connected to it. So what we can do is we can simulate that something happens, for example, to a rack, to a power supply, to an application, and see how the collateral systems are affected. This gives us the opportunity to create response plan for every single issue, even before it happens. So we are not limited to what happened in the past. We can imagine what can happen in the future and create responses for it.
Let me highlight just two things that you mentioned. First of all, the scalability, how we can use this digital twin to scale at the level expected for a city like Giga. And second, how you can integrate different layers, as you can see on the bottom of the screen, where you can embed OT, IoT, cybersecurity, business-oriented information, networking, everything.
This is very important because, as for now, we only add the technology part or the technology layer for it, but we are moving now with them, exploring new use cases, such controlling the point of sales to get to know how it's selling the different asset points in the park. We are also planning to integrate with the sensors of the construction, the physical construction, to control vibrations, weather, sandstorms, all these kind of things. And we are also exploring how to monitor the different flows of the people across the park, so they can decide how they can make proactive announcement to the people to move them, marketing campaigns to move them from one park to the other, depending on the occupancy of the different rides. So the use case list is huge.
Yes, and well, we are right now in the phase of the deployment of the Intelligent Command Center. We are opening the room. If you have any questions related to this topic, right now we are working on how we can apply this really amazing technology to other use cases. Well, thank you very much for attending.